Hey guys, Alexa B Alchemy here today to do your weekly card pull. Today's card pull is designed to help bring you a little bit of guidance in order to find balance within your life. If you have any questions, of course, please feel free to reach out. For anyone who has Aries placements, especially in their big three, their sun, moon, or risings, I pulled for you the card of gratitude again for this upcoming week. I highly recommend that you tap into a practice of gratitude of some kind, whether or not you already have one of these practices or if this is something that you'd like to instill in your life. This card tells me that it would likely benefit you to pay attention to the things that you have in your life that you are grateful for. My personal way of doing this is to every morning before I wake up, before I do anything, before I open my phone, literally wake up, grab my journal and write down at least 5 things that I'm grateful for. If you are in a position in your life where you want to start shifting your mindset and you don't really know where to start, or if you feel like you've been trying to make changes in your life and those changes aren't coming to fruition in the way that you would like to see them come into fruition, I think your best next step would be to employ this practice of gratitude and to focus on utilizing your appreciation as the starting point for your mindset shift. The neat thing about doing a practice of gratitude is that it sort of hones your brain to start paying attention to the things that you do have. Even if nothing in your life were to change, if you were to employ a practice of gratitude and to get very serious about doing this, it doesn't necessarily mean that your entire life is going to be sunshine and daisies and everything's going to be perfect, but it will train your brain to start looking for the good even in the rough or challenging situations. So ultimately, at the end of the day, your experience of life will shift even if the world around you doesn't. Now, when your internal energy shifts, of course, the things that show up around you do as well. So in my personal opinion, I think it is a great first step to invoking change. And no matter what changes it is that you are looking to create in your life, a good first step would be to start by saying thank you. This practice is definitely something that I recommend doing for yourself and with yourself. However, if you would like to extend it to the people around you, the people that you love and care about, I would also invite you to share your gratitudes, whether that means telling someone else what you're thankful for, maybe having an accountability partner in your gratitude list, or getting in the habit of saying thank you to the people around you that are bringing something wonderful into your life. I also get with this card an energy of repetition and the power of repetition, especially when it comes to a practice of gratitude, but just overall and in general. I have a feeling, and I got I guess a download if you want to call it that this repetition of this one thing, this one practice is maybe not the only place in your life where you're going to want to get comfortable with creating a healthy habit. Once you've created a healthy habit, the repetition of that and the regular enforcement of that is going to create a level of consistency for you, and it's going to help to rewire the way that your brain is operating and the things that you consider, I guess, normal. So if there are things in your life that you value or aspects of your life that you want to continue with, whether that's gratitude practice, journaling practice, meditation, exercise, movement, diet, you name it, whatever that habit is, I think there's also something really powerful for you this week in the way of repetition. So Aries, for this week, really focus on gratitude, the things that you're grateful for. If things are feeling rough or challenging or you're ready for some change, I definitely recommend starting there. And I will be moving now into the sign of Taurus. My dear Taurus, for anyone who has a Taurus in their chart, especially in their big three, your sun, moon, or rising, the card I pulled for you for this week has a lot to do with your own shifting and your own change. This card comes with a message of lead your metamorphosis. Generally speaking, this card will come up if you are on the brink of a massive breakthrough or if you're in a particularly transformative cycle. So if you're into astrology, maybe tapping into a little bit more of that Scorpio side, especially if you have those placements anywhere in your chart. Bottom line with this card for this week, there is a huge importance for you to focus on trusting the life-death cycle and focus on trusting the natural evolution of things. A piece of advice that this card brings is to begin, if you aren't already, choosing the emerging version of yourself rather than the past version of yourself. There will always be pieces of us that remain constant in some way, but change is also the nature of life, so we are constantly evolving and we are constantly shifting. If you look at the person that you were a year ago, a month ago, even a week ago, if that person does not resonate with you as you are now and who you want to become, this card is definitely an implication for you that you need to continue moving forward in your transitions. You need to continue moving forward in the change that you want to see within yourself. And that is not something that the outside world is going to dictate. That is something that you are going to decide for yourself. And this doesn't necessarily mean that you're throwing old pieces of yourself away. I kind of like to think of this as the South Node, North Node axis. And for those of you who are not familiar with astrology, the South Node is an indication of where you're coming from, maybe a past self, past life, if that's something that you subscribe to. And your North Node implies what you are kind of designed to step into or move into in this life. It's generally going to be something that's a little bit more uncomfortable for you, but it's going to have a lot of answers for the questions that you have, and it's going to provide almost like a guidance for your journey. I think a lot of people sort of misinterpret North and South Node, and some people say, okay, well, my South Node is who I was and I should never be that person, and anything resemblant of that I'm going to throw away so I can step into the new. And I think the reality of this is that your past, whether it's your South Node or just in general your past versions of yourself, they inform who you are becoming, and they're not something that you need to shove under the rug, and they're not something that you need to dismiss or shame or hate or try to detach from. It's more a matter of like, that might be something that you are comfortable with, that might be something that you have quote unquote already conquered, and you don't need to continue putting all of your effort and energy into being that person, because you've already been that person. That person is inherently helpful for your journey because it's a part of your journey. But ultimately, I think there's this really beautiful balance of learning to accept the things of the past, including the past versions of yourself, and utilizing that as fuel to step into what you're now moving into. And my dear Taurus, having pulled this card, I get the feeling that it's pretty likely that you are moving into something amazing for yourself. You're moving into something that's a huge change. There's almost like a rebirth that you're getting to experience. In fact, the design on this card actually features a scarab beetle, which was a huge sign for rebirth in ancient Egypt. So there are a lot of themes this week for you in this cycle of an old you, an old thing kind of dying away. And that dying away is ultimately what's going to fertilize the ground for what you are growing into and what you are becoming. So there's no need to disown the past. However, I would recommend that you be very conscious of the person that you are becoming right now and the way that you are doing that. And if you are experiencing fear, just know the life-death cycle is a part of life. And so you may be feeling like as things fall away, as old pieces, old stories, maybe old relationships, past people sort of sink down into the past. That doesn't mean that there's no opportunity for life in the future. It just means that what's coming for you now is going to be different. And inherently, because this card is all about transformation and transitions, that will ultimately be beneficial for you. So have faith in this process, my dear Taurus. I know that the sign of Taurus tends to be a little bit more stubborn and a little bit more grounded and likes to be comfortable with old things, but there is value in the new as well. So be willing to accept that and step into that change and know that you are the one that's in control of this change, no one else. All right, my dear Geminis, for everyone who has Gemini in their chart, especially for your sun, moon, and rising, I pulled for you today the card of Creator Air. Now, I do think that this one is a bit ironic given that Gemini is an air sign. So there is a level of comfortability, I think, that might come up for you in this week, and that is amazing. Now, air signs rule the area of intellect and thought, and how those thoughts and ideas are expressed to the world around us, which translates into communication. So for anything that comes up this week, especially if it feels challenging or you're not sure how to navigate it, my dear Geminis, with this card, I think the advice for you for this week is to really focus on understanding how your rational mind is serving you in this time, or how the rational minds of others is serving them. Overall, if you have question marks about what's going on, or you're looking for a level of guidance, or maybe you're looking for almost like journal prompts, like I feel like some of you need to start asking yourself questions. And if you're not asking yourself the question, you need someone else to ask the question of you. And a few questions that I think might be a really strong guidance for you in this week all kind of come down to the realm of knowledge and communication. So the first question that I would recommend that you ask yourself in any situation that comes up for this week is to distinguish between what you know and what you need to know about a situation. If this pertains to something in your work or your business, it might benefit you to pay attention to what are the facts and figures, if you will, what is available to you in the way of information and something that you can access and process with your mind. Also, in doing this, I think the delineation between what you know and what you need to know might give you a little bit of guidance as to where you want to focus your energy and what you want to put your energy into. The second question, my Geminis, that I would recommend asking is, how does my communication affect the situation? Am I communicating things honestly? Am I communicating all of my ideas? Am I communicating in a very sporadic way, in a direct way? Just understanding the way that your ideas formulate in your brain and how they're translating to the people around you, maybe your team, your families, your friends. In general, understanding the ways in which your communication is affecting a situation will probably also be something for you to consider, especially when it comes to the question of what do I need to know about my situation. One of the things that you probably need to know is how your communication is affecting it. A third concept that I think might be helpful for you to explore this week is to understand how your rational mind is supporting you. For this one, I think there are a lot of times when our rational mind, our thinking mind, can definitely help us in situations, and there are definitely times when it can prove to be a bit of a challenge. I think one example would be, especially in the way of relationships, if we are overthinking, constantly obsessing with our thoughts and not allowing ourselves to tap into our feelings. Generally speaking, it's because we are afraid to feel things, so we will try to think our way out of feeling them, and that can really muddy the waters. Anytime your brain goes into overdrive, it's trying to help you. You are not trying to handicap yourself, even if the thoughts that you're having are particularly unhelpful. I think taking a step back and saying, okay, where are these thoughts coming from? What are they trying to tell me? How does this serve my journey as a whole? Maybe my brain is overthinking because it's trying to protect me from a sense of danger that I actually feel. Or maybe my brain is overthinking because it's afraid that I'm going to feel joy, and then it's afraid that I'm going to lose that. So in this regard, maybe there has been a level of emotional avoidance, which again, I'm not here to shame that or say that that's wrong or that that's a bad thing. It's just having an awareness of that and awareness of what your brain is doing and why might really help you to understand yourself and the world around you in with a bit more clarity for this week. On the flip side, it's possible that you've been hyper emotional and over emotional and not at all using your rational mind, in which case I would encourage you to look at the way that your rational mind might help you work through the situation right now. Finally, knowing that this sign is encouraging you to tap into the element of air, I think literally and physically, whenever this card comes up for me, I always see it as a recommendation to get outside, spend some time getting fresh air, tap into that element in every single way, shape, and form. And if at any point you're feeling jumbled between the rational and the emotional, you don't know how to separate them, you don't know how to process them both at the same time or separately, please feel free to reach out and I will be more than happy to provide some guidance in that regard as well. Cancers, for anyone who has Cancer as your sun, moon, or rising, or anywhere in predominant placements in your chart, I pulled for you the card that acknowledges the importance of follow through. So for this week, my dear Cancers, your challenge is to start following through on things especially that are incomplete. This card usually comes up if there is maybe an unfinished idea that needs finishing, or a project that you've started, a connection, a dream that you feel was always meant to happen and never happened. And right now, you're being really strongly encouraged to put your energy into following through on those things. There's something in your life that needs completion and needs closure, or needs you to continue to invest in it. And completion, closure, etc. can look a few different ways. One of those ways is just saying, it's done. I don't want to continue investing in this. I'm going to accept that this project, it has completed what it was meant to complete, even if it didn't have the outcome that I wanted or the outcome that was desired. I'm ready to close the chapter and move forward. If that doesn't resonate with you, if it feels like there are things that are still on the table that you want to be investing in, or that you feel like are kind of an unfinished dream, your challenge for this week is to acknowledge that and say, okay, this is important to me. I do want to continue putting energy into this, and to make sure that your actions are aligning with that. If you feel like there are old dreams that you have that maybe you have forgotten or kind of sidestepped or just put on the back burner right now, this week you have a really beautiful opportunity to revisit those and to get an understanding if those dreams are still important to you. And if they are, every piece of this card is acknowledging that you might want to take action on that and move forward with that in whatever way that you can. Something to consider with this card is that even from a subconscious perspective, if we have a narrative in our minds, or there's something in our life that is saying, oh, I was gonna follow through with that and I was gonna finish that and I never did, that feeling of I didn't do what I said I was going to do even if we're not consciously thinking about it all the time, it can drain us over time. And if you are feeling particularly burnt out, drained, or tired, it might be a result of having your energy invested into a bunch of different avenues, and you need to cut those cords. Whether that means cutting the cord for good and saying this is done, this is complete, or whether that means saying, okay, I'm gonna cut the cord with the incompletion of this, and in doing so, I'm going to reinvest in it. I'm going to refocus my energy into it and reclaim this as part of my path. If you want maximal energy, it might benefit you this week to just look at what your relationship is to these possible dynamics within your life. So my sweet, loving Cancers, for you this week, there is a very big importance on follow through. There's also the word nurturing came through really strongly with this. So given that you are a Cancer, you have Cancer energy. Cancer is like the most nurturing of all the signs, in my opinion. It's like the mother almost. And so there is a piece of this that I think will come very naturally to you. But understanding what dreams you have and maybe have forgotten that need that nurturing, it might help you to really just carve the path that you want to actually be taking. So if you've been feeling scattered and you would like to feel a little bit more grounded right now, I recommend just taking some time to look at the pieces of your life that maybe you started and you never got to finish. Understanding that those projects you probably started for a reason, and if you can get back in touch with that reason and evaluate whether or not that is still important to you, it might help you understand the best way for you to proceed at this time. So follow through, my dear Cancers. Follow through on your word, follow through on what you are saying to people, follow through on the commitments that you make. And if they do not feel like commitments that resonate with you anymore, explore why and be willing to let those go. And if they do feel resonant, don't forget why you started, don't forget why they're there, and continue to put some nurturing effort into them. Okay, my dear Leos, for anyone who has Leo placements, especially in your big three or predominant areas in your chart, your encouragement for this upcoming week is to get introspective. The primary message of this card is to integrate your knowing, and to do so, it is likely that you will need to spend some time alone, spend some time with yourself, and be willing to listen to what your whole entire heart is desiring. When I pull this card, the word sifting comes through pretty strongly, as in like sifting through your thoughts, sifting through your emotions, sifting through all the information that is available to you, and there is a lot. So this is kind of like the accumulation of everything that you have learned up until this point probably is going to be necessary for you to make the decisions that you need to make, or take the actions that you need to take this week in moving forward in your life. There's definitely a degree of instinct and intuition that you are being called to tap into for this week. So if you have really strong intuitive pings, I would definitely recommend that you take some time away from the world to get in touch with those, understand them, and be willing to follow through with them. Like, you've been through situations in the past probably where you have trusted your intuition, and you may have been in situations in the past where you have not. And being able to understand long-term what were the effects of following through with those things or not following through with those things. But a big piece of what you actually need to move forward is the understanding of the things that have already happened or already transpired in your past. Like, if you look at the card, it has a fox on it, and generally speaking, foxes are known for being clever and cunning and sometimes sly. And this requires a level of intelligence, a level of skill, and a level of following instinct. When you spend time alone, you're able to hear what your whole heart is desiring. And I have a feeling that if you don't take time out for yourself this week, if you are constantly invested in other people, other connections, asking people, what do you think? What should I do? What's your opinion? Blah, blah, blah. And you don't give yourself the time and space to get familiar with how you actually feel, and you deny the knowing that you have inside of you. Especially, I feel like, especially if you feel like your intuition is inadequate, or you feel like you need more proof, or you want someone to tell you what to do. My dear Leos, this card is telling me that you have everything that you need in the way of experience, in the way of learnings, in the way of skill from your own life to properly guide you through this, and you don't need to be reaching towards other people's opinions to figure out your next best step. This card also comes with the encouragement to add up all of your options, and if none of those options, like if you've been looking at it from one perspective or maybe two perspectives, and you're like, okay, these are my two options, this card is encouraging you to take everything that you know, almost start from scratch in the way of like, okay, these are the pieces that I know, this is what information is available to me. How can I make something new out of this? I think there may be a possible next step that you are not seeing, and once you see that, because it might be integrating all of the different facets of your knowing, it might actually guide you in the right direction for you. So this week, my dear Leos, be willing to take time away from the world around you to get honest with yourself about the things that you know. Maybe journal things that have happened in your past, things that you have learned, big life lessons. We are closing in on the end of this year, so if you want to look back on this year and kind of take note of the things that you've learned and the things that have come up for you, the person that you have become, and seeing how all of those life lessons can come together to provide you the guidance that you need. Because ultimately, I think what this card's saying is like your next best decision is going to come from yourself. It's going to come from within. And the reason that you can trust it is because it is an accumulation of everything that you have learned up until this point in your life. And everything that you have learned is adequate because you are smart. Your intuition serves you, it always has. And instinctively, I think you know what to do. It's just a matter of taking the space to get honest with yourself about what that is. And my sweet Leos, if you're struggling to figure out what that is actually going to look like or how that might manifest in your life and you'd like to chat with someone about it, please do feel free to reach out and I will be more than happy to help support you in that. All right, moving into the next one. So for my Virgos, anyone with primary Virgo placements, especially your sun, moon, or rising, I pulled for you in reverse the card of manifesting and doing. So in the reverse, this card can imply maybe a little bit of a self-care message, if you will, something that might have a little bit of shadow, something that's a little bit more challenging. And it's asking for you to turn within and look at yourself instead of projecting everything out onto the world around you. Now, this card can come up in reverse in times when maybe you're doing half of the work, but not all of the work, and you're trying to manifest all of these things, but you're not willing to actually put forth the effort that is required to make those things come to fruition. Up until this point, there's a possibility that you have been wanting certain things, but you haven't been putting in the proper work to make those things happen. And right now you might be seeing the repercussions of that. And if you would like to see a change in your external reality, I think one possible piece of advice for you for this week is to be willing to actually put in the work. Now, my dear Virgos, if this does not resonate with you or you feel like you have been putting in the work, it's possible that you've been putting in the work in the wrong areas. It's likely that there's some kind of misalignment either in the way that you're trying to manifest things or in the way that you are doing things. In reverse, one of the messages that comes through is it's possible that you are expecting things to be hard. So you are either not moving forward or you're moving forward in a way that's basically creating more work for yourself in the long run because of an internal belief that it has to be hard all the time. It is possible, again, with this card that you are kind of doing this like on-off push-pull thing where you work super hard and then you burn out because you think, oh, it's gonna be hard, so I gotta put all my energy, I gotta grind, I gotta put everything I have into this. And then you burn out and you're like, oh shit, I'm exhausted, I don't have anything left to give to this, whether it's a partnership, a project, your work, etc. And then you have to get back into the groove and you basically are continuing in this cycle where it just feels like it's always hard because you're doing this stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. And if you look at physics, it takes a lot more energy for things to stop and go than to consistently just keep moving forward. So for all of my Virgos this week, there is definitely an encouragement for you to take action for sure and to be consistent with it. Now, I also have a feeling that maybe you haven't been as consistent up until this point, not only because of a belief that it has to be hard, but maybe there is a belief that what you have and what you bring to the table is inadequate, and maybe you don't trust in your abilities, especially as a creator. And if this resonates with you, then there's, I think, a lot of work on the energetic realm that needs to be done of trusting yourself and trusting your ability to create things for the world, for other people that are of value. And in trusting those things, I think it'll actually eliminate a lot of the friction that you might be feeling in doing them. So it will make that process of doing a lot easier. Again, the encouragement for this week from this card is to allow things to be easy. Like, it doesn't have to be hard, but you do have to do the work. The work doesn't have to be as hard as you thought it might be, which might be why you've been avoiding it, but you do need to be consistent with your actions in this arena. Finally, my dear Virgos, with this card, there is a message that it's possible that you've been trying to manifest things that are going to keep you busy and not necessarily things that are going to keep you happy. So I would recommend that whatever it is that you're trying to bring forward and bring to fruition in your life, understanding, am I doing this just for the sake of staying busy? Am I doing this for the sake of making money? Am I doing this for the sake of having things to do? Or am I doing this for the sake of it brings me happiness and it brings me joy to be doing this? So if subconsciously you feel like you're hoping for busy instead of happy, or even your actions are aligned with I want to be busy instead of I want to be happy, understanding where your actions are coming from, and again, why that might make it feel harder than it actually is, could help to eliminate some of that, some of the barricade that might be standing between you and where you are right now and where you want to be. So my dear Virgos, don't be afraid to do the work, because it doesn't necessarily have to be hard. You might have been making it hard, or a lot harder than it needed to have been for a long time. So do not be afraid to step forward and put in the effort. Just understand that the way that you are putting that effort forward and where that place is coming from is ultimately going to affect your relationship to it. And if you're in a state where you feel like you are burnt out, you've been overworking, you don't have any life balance at all, you desperately want support with that, please let me know and I'm more than happy to help walk you through that. Alrighty, moving into the next card. So for all of my Libras, anyone who has predominant Libra placements in their chart, especially Sun, Moon, and Rising, I pulled for you the card of the sacred flow of yes. For this week, my dear Libras, your challenge is to start saying yes. And in saying yes, allowing the movement of things and allowing that movement to be easy and to be fluid. If you notice on the card, there is a fish, and this fish is resemblant of the relationship that we have to water and flowing through things, flowing through life. Like, one of the biggest encouragements of this card is to flow around any problems that you see or any problems that you're creating. If you look at the way water flows through a stream, for example, there's a ton of rocks in the stream and the water will continue to flow around it. I would encourage you to take this analogy and look at how this might apply to your life, especially if you're seeing rocks or hurdles or challenges and you're looking at it as like, oh my God, this is gonna stop me, or this is getting in the way of my progress, or I have no way to proceed. For you this week, your challenge, my Libras, is to say, yes, I will continue to move forward because I can, and this obstacle, this challenge, whatever it is, I am able to flow around this. Maybe this applies in your business, maybe this applies in your partnerships, maybe this applies in your financial life. There is something about challenges and struggles that either have been coming up or are coming up or will come up for you this week that are not meant to stop you. It's almost like it's meant to be a marker for you that's going to nudge you into finding, honestly, a simpler solution. Like, if you've been trying to complicate things and making things challenging, making things tough, making things harder than they need to be, you're going to be presented with some potential challenges, things that might get in the way, or you might think they're getting in the way of your life, that realistically are trying to just move you into the state of saying yes to this. This is the simplest action. I will move forward with that. Like, you don't need to complicate things. You don't need to complicate things, my dear. And in allowing for this ease of movement and allowing things to fall into place, especially if you have been resisting it or trying to swim upstream, there is a huge encouragement for you to trust that the universe has got your back. Like, whatever it is that's happening is here to support you, and it is actually probably going to be the wind beneath your wings, even if that's not how you're feeling right now. But trusting that these problems and these hurdles might actually be quite minor compared to what your brain is telling you that they are. And so allowing yourself to just flow around them with ease, not getting super attached to the way that things should be. Give yourself the permission to do that. Give yourself the permission to say, this doesn't have to be hard. Give yourself the permission to say, this can be easy. And in doing so, you're giving yourself the validation and the support that you're probably looking for that in things outside of you. So begin saying yes. If problems come up, flow around them. You keep moving through life. The hurdles that you see or that you think you're gonna see are not gonna stop you ultimately from getting to the place that you want to get to. So my Libras, practice saying yes, especially if it feels right, and understand that if there are any hurdles that come up along the way, trust that you will be able to make it through those. Okay, my lovely Scorpios. So for you, if you have Scorpio in your Sun, Moon, Rising, or any predominant placements within your chart, I pulled for you in reverse the card that acknowledges that you are the muse. Anytime that this card is pulled in the upright position, it is kind of showing you this radiance about yourself and this understanding that, like, ultimately you are the inspiration for your own work. Other people, situations around you, the world around you will reflect back to you those things, and so you may see others as an inspiration, but ultimately they are reflecting back to you something about yourself. Now, having been pulled in reverse, in the reverse, this card kind of might be implying a little bit of a shadow aspect, maybe something that you are struggling with within yourself, something that needs a little bit of TLC, tender loving care, and self-compassion. So that tells me that right now in this chapter, you might be feeling like you are incapable of finding that muse within yourself. Maybe you're feeling a little bit down on yourself, maybe you're feeling like you don't have anything to offer, or if you do, it's not enough. So I get the impression that maybe there's some piece of you that might be feeling a little bit uninspired this week. And if you're not right now, maybe there will be a situation that will unfold that will bring that up, or even will bring up memories of a side of yourself that has experienced that. And this is not to be a Debbie Downer or to give you a sense of fear coming into this week, because this card, even pulled in reverse, is actually an incredibly powerful card. It's just the acknowledgement that wherever, like, you need to find that inspiration within yourself. That's gonna be your predominant focus for this week, my Scorpios. If you don't know what lights you up, it is probably about time that you start focusing on finding that. And if you do know what lights you up, and maybe you're feeling a little bit discouraged or a little bit out of place, tapping into those things that light you up is probably going to be your best medicine for any event, situation, challenge that comes up that presents this dynamic within you. There is also a possibility, especially when this card comes up in the reverse, there might be a situation, and I say this with love, my sweet Scorpios, there might be a situation coming up for you this week, or that has come up, where you are being a bit of a diva, maybe having some unrealistic expectations, or you're being overly dramatic. If this does resonate with you, this is, again, not to shame you or make you feel bad about anything, because definitely with this card being in reverse, we all know that you need that sense of that spark within yourself. So I'm not saying this to diminish that. I'm more saying this to give you a level of self-awareness. If this does resonate and you are like, oh wow, maybe I have been over dramatic in this, I think ultimately at the end of the day, it's possible that you're just focusing on the wrong things. Maybe you're focusing on validation coming from outside of you. Maybe you're focusing on what everyone else has, and it's making you feel like I have nothing. And so in that state, like, that's a state of lack, and it's understandable if that's making you feel a little bit neurotic. It's understandable if that's making you tap into a side of yourself that is a little bit more dramatic, because that is, like, emotionally, that's incredibly challenging, and I do not want to take anything away from that. Having said that, if you're feeling like, wow, I have been like a little whoof all over the place right now, or man, I'm not feeling like myself, then your encouragement is to tap back into the person that you want to be, and to find that inner muse, that inner inspiration that you have within yourself. Interestingly enough, if you feel you have been really dramatic or emotional, or it just feels like everything has been a lot maybe, this can actually be a huge advantage for finding your spark. My encouragement to most of my clients is see if you can go 5% deeper into that feeling. So if maybe you're feeling particularly emotional about one specific thing, or there's something at work or in your family life that is just really like getting under your skin, and it's really giving you a lot of emotions, whether they're good, bad, a combination of the two, spend some time tapping into that within yourself. Using music or dance is honestly like my best way of doing this, but really allowing that sensation to fill you up and to flood you, so that you can see what's actually there, what's actually underneath that. And in doing that, you may discover like, oh, I'm actually a very passionate person, and that sense of passion is the spark that you need. And so then you're basically turning that overly dramatic energy into your own muse, into your own inspiration. And I know this may sound counterintuitive to what I was saying before. Ultimately, there's no right or wrong way, there's only your way. But if it resonates with you more to have the self-awareness and to step back and say, okay, I'm gonna focus on what inspires me, or if it resonates you more to say, I'm gonna step the fuck into this and really feel into this and allow this to somehow paint the picture for my next chapter, there's no wrong with either one of those. It's kind of just a matter of what you want to do and what feels honest and true for you. Ultimately, my Scorpios, be self-aware of what's happening when it is happening. And in this process, allow yourself to see your radiance so that you can start being an inspiration to yourself. Remember that a lot of the times the people around us, especially that we love or fall in love with, are reflecting something back to us that we love about ourselves. So if you're struggling to tap into this, maybe take stock of the people in your life that you have a lot of admiration for and seeing how you can channel that same energy for yourself, because at the end of the day, it is a reflection of you as well. Whew, that one was a lot. Okay, I hope that one sits well with you guys. If you have any questions or need clarification, please feel free to let me know. And with all of that, I will move into Sagittarius. So my sweet Sagittarians, if you have Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, or any predominant placements in your chart, the card I pulled for you today has 3 very important words. I did pull it in reverse, and the words are limitations, inspire, innovation. Now, this can be a whole ass sentence. Your limitations inspire your innovations. However, this card also encourages you to acknowledge which one of these words, if any of them, popped out at you the most. If the word limitation was the first word that you saw that really like stuck with you, and maybe that left like a sour taste in your mouth, that's something that I want you to think about. If the word inspire innovations came up for you as the most important, then that tells me subconsciously a lot about where you are in this chapter. It's possible right now, having been pulled in reverse, that you might be settling for less than what you actually want or what you deserve. It's also possible that there's a relationship you have to your limitations that is causing you to believe that these limitations that you're experiencing are permanent. And the belief that they are permanent is ultimately probably what's causing you to settle in the first place. It's also likely that having been pulled in reverse, there might be a belief or an assumption that you have that anytime there's a limitation, it means failure. Whether it's you've done something and it's created a limitation in your life and you feel, oh, I failed because I have a limitation, or you look at limitations in your life and you say, okay, because these exist, I'm going to fail. Either one of those, my dear Sagittarians, I am going to encourage you to look at and understand it is a belief system. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is true, but if you subscribe to it and believe that it's true, it will become true for you. The more positive iteration of this energy, and something that I would encourage you to remember, especially in this upcoming week, is knowing that if you can sense your limitations, if you can see where those lie, you are also able to find opportunities for growth. Anytime you feel a limitation or an obstacle, you can look at it as, this is gonna be my downfall, this is gonna cause my failure, or you can look at it and say, wow, this is a great opportunity for growth. I'm gonna move into that. Your relationship to that experience is completely within your control, by the way. So if you have the belief system that, oh, this is gonna get in the way of my life, blah, 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 then that's gonna be what you experience if you decide that that's gonna be your truth. So ultimately, understanding your relationship to limitations might be of huge service for you this week. If this is resonating with you and you want to find alternative ways to work through this, or you want to train your brain to approach limitations from a better, more grounded perspective, I would recommend that you experiment with limitations in ways that are seemingly trivial, but they'll actually, again, train your brain to recognize the opportunity in things. As an example, pick a word, pick any word in the English dictionary. That's your word for the day. Even if it's a word that makes absolutely no sense to you, or you're like, I don't, this word is creating a box for me or whatever. Understanding how this one word can challenge your thoughts, how it can challenge the way that you relate to your life and to the world around you, might again train your brain to see, oh wow, this limitation that I thought was gonna be an absolute shit show is actually really changing the way that I see things in a beautiful way. Okay, let's say I pick purse. Purse is my word for the day. Anything I do during the day, as much as I can, I'm going to allow that single word to inspire the way that I act. The cool thing with this is you get to decide however that's gonna look. Maybe the word purse, I'm gonna say, oh, I'm gonna purse my lips, and then it becomes a completely different word. Maybe the word purse is applying to a bag, wherein I carry all of my stuff. So then I challenge myself to sit and think, okay, am I carrying too much in my purse? What can I let go of? And it becomes a source of inspiration for you to understand your life, your actions, the way that you're showing up, even though at first you might be like, what the hell is this? This has no practical application. This does not benefit me, blah, 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 blah. So realistically, my Sagittarians, seeing the opportunity in any challenges or limitations that you may feel, especially knowing that you have Sagittarian energy in your chart, this is especially good for big picture thinking as well as exploration. So allowing yourself to explore your life from the lens of this limitation is actually an opportunity for growth, or this limitation is actually something that will inspire me to be more innovative. Especially if in business you are an entrepreneur or you have an entrepreneurial mindset, getting very comfortable with seeing any possible setbacks or limitations as opportunities for growth is probably going to inspire you to continue taking action on things in a way that ultimately will serve you in the long run. So my dear Sagittarians, do not be afraid to look at your relationship to the challenges that might be coming up for you this week or have been coming up for you, and know that when you shift your perspective and your relationship to those, it actually invites in potentially completely new innovations and new ways of looking at things. All right, so moving into Capricorns, anyone with Capricorn sun, moon, or rising or predominant placements within your natal chart, I pulled for you in reverse the card that says, choose who you are becoming. Now, in the reverse, this card can imply a few things, but one of the things that can imply is that you might not be making a decision that you need to make. There might be some unnecessary delays that either you are creating or you feel are being created for you. And because of those things, you might be trying to play it safe or kind of straddling two options and saying like, oh, okay, well, I don't really know, so I'm just gonna kind of take the middle ground. And you're taking this average path of, I don't know, so I'll just kind of stay stagnant where I am, instead of radically choosing, I'm going to commit to this and move forward with this regardless of how it affects X, Y, and Z. And in order for you to step onto the extraordinary path of your life, you need to step off of the average path. Having been pulled in reverse, and again, acknowledging that there might be an issue for you with decision making, it's probably going to be important for you, Capricorns, to understand where is this hesitation with making a decision coming from. A lot of the times we will hesitate to make decisions because we are trying to control an outcome, and we are afraid that if we make a decision one way or another, it is going to affect the outcome of a situation, and we are trying to continue to have control over that. And if this resonates with you in any situation or multiple situations in your life right now, my dear Capricorns, you are being encouraged to remember that no decision is still a decision, and the decision you're making in making no decision is the decision to stay the same. So if you want things in your life to change, or you want to see shifts in your relationship to the world around you, make decisive actions, because those decisive actions are ultimately going to communicate to the universe what you want, what you're willing to settle for, what you're willing to accept into your life, and they help you to define what it is that you are desiring. Now, to not know is okay, and that's a very normal thing. However, the energy of I don't know, as in I don't know what to do, I don't know what I want, if you understand where it's coming from, it might help you shift that I don't know mentality. When it comes to things like business, a lot of the times CEOs and powerful executives, one of the top reasons that they fail is because they are afraid to make decisions, or they take too long to do so. And the root reason of why many people will struggle to make decisions is because they are afraid of the outcome, and maybe they don't trust themselves, no matter what the outcome is, to see it through or to know how to respond. So to avoid having to make future decisions, they avoid making decisions now, and ultimately it just becomes this ongoing cycle of choosing not to choose so that you don't have to choose later, and constantly putting off decision making to the point where nothing gets done and there's a level of stagnancy that in the long run can corrupt a business or negatively impact a team. So with the guiding words of choose who you are becoming, know that your choices affect who you are, and they will affect the way that you show up, and you don't need to be afraid of that. You don't need to be afraid of becoming the person that you are becoming. You don't need to be afraid of making the decisions. This card comes up not to make you feel like shit for not making up a decision. This card comes up because it wants to encourage you to trust yourself to make a decision. So anywhere in your life where you might be struggling to do that, explore what the root cause of that is, and understand that if you make a small decision now, it's not necessarily going to fuck up your life. Ironically, I am a Capricorn sun, and this message really resonates with me. And one of the things that I started to employ in my life a few months ago that has actually made a drastic difference in the way I show up for myself, for my business, and for other people is making small decisions quicker. If you're the type of person where you go to a cafe and it takes you 10 hours to make a decision on what you want to order, practice making a decision faster, not for the sake of being hasty, but just for the sake of understanding that when you make a decision, you follow through with it, whatever the outcome is, you turn out okay. And it builds this almost like this trust muscle within yourself of, okay, I am capable of making decisions and I don't need to take forever to make them or to put off making the decisions. The 60% rule is generally a good one to follow. If you are 60% sure of how you feel, you can count that 60 as 100% and just make the decision and move forward from there. You do not need to have 100% certainty to make a decision, because the time that it takes for you to cultivate 100% certainty is the amount of time it would probably take for you to gain and then lose the opportunity. So yes, think things through, don't be irrational, don't make split decisions just because you can, but I do encourage you to practice building that trust muscle, especially with things that maybe don't have a huge impact on your life in the long run. One final tip with this is the 5-year, 5-minute rule. If it won't matter in 5 years, try not to spend more than 5 minutes of your bandwidth on it. So start making some decisions, trust that you're gonna be okay with them, move forward with them, and know that in this process, you are choosing the person that you're becoming and you are choosing the life that you are creating. Okay, so moving into Aquarius, anyone who has Aquarian energy in their chart, especially your big 3, sun, moon, and rising, I pulled for you a card in reverse, and the card comes with the encouragement to shift the way into new potential. Generally speaking, this card will come up if there is something in your approach to a situation or to life that might benefit from a bit of a shift, a bit of some outside of the box thinking. You need to be a fucking leader this week, my dear Aquarians. I don't know how else to say it. You have to step into your leadership capabilities this week. Because it was pulled in reverse, this will probably come with a level of resistance, whether that is from within yourself or from the people around you. You might be surrounded by a bunch of people who are naysayers, or they disagree with your thoughts, your philosophies, the way that you do things. You might be feeling like there are expectations of you, whether they are self-imposed or things that other people expect of you, and you want to think in an innovative way, you want to think in a different way, but boxing yourself into what the expectation is for you is going to really get in the way of your ability to do that. So for this week, my Aquarians, you are being challenged to allow yourself to accept a new way of thinking. Even if it makes other people uncomfortable or they don't know how to react to it, ultimately this shift that you make within yourself and your relationship to the world is going to serve as inspiration for others. And your encouragement this week is not to be different for the sake of it, but to allow yourself to think differently, because that's what you're here to do. So yes, there's a level of humility that's required with this, but also there is a level of perseverance and determination to step into a new way of doing things. If you feel like you have one foot in the old, one foot in the new, just know that like this is going to cause a level of tension, because you have your energy scattered between two completely different modalities or two completely different ways of doing things. So if you can understand what your incentive is for being one foot in this door and one foot in that door, and how you can work with that, not for the sake of your own gain, not for the sake of your own benefit, but for the sake of how it can benefit the people around you or your team, your willingness to step fully onto one path and to be dedicated to that one path in the long run is probably one of the greatest things that you can do for the greater good of everyone. So just know this week, my dear Aquarians, that any decision that you are faced with, if you are making a decision from an altruistic place of how can I choose the action that's going to best lead everyone, even if some people disagree with it or some people are challenged by it, I think being willing to accept a new way of thinking this week is probably going to be of very high importance for you. So my dear Aquarians, if you want to create new potential, you have to be the one to shift the way to that, and you have to be the one that is willing to take action that maybe some people disagree with in order to create that new potential. If you do what you've always done, you will get what you've always got, and if you want something different and you want to create a new potential, it is about time that you start doing that this week. And finally, for my sweet Pisces, anyone who has Pisces in your big 3 or sun, moon, or rising, or any predominant placements in your chart, for this week, I pulled for you in reverse the card of Fierce Serenity. And this card is the epitome of the peaceful warrior. So in any situation that you are faced with this week, whether it is one that you are already battling or dealing with, or one that will come up in the course of the next few days, your encouragement, my dear Pisces, is to stand in your own power. Now, having been pulled in reverse, this card can imply a level of maybe losing patience or feeling like you've lost control. And as a result of that, maybe your emotions run wild. You're a Pisces, so I know you've got emotions deep within you, and those can be very watery and here and there, and it's everything. And it's okay to have those emotions. It's okay to have that experience. However, your actions will benefit from being that of the peaceful warrior. There is a degree of this that is encouraging you to stand in your own power and insist on integrity, not only from others, but also from yourself. Now, the peaceful warrior does include the word warrior, so there is an element of fighting for what you believe in. And this is not encouraging you to be passive, but it is encouraging you to understand that the way in which you show up for things, the way in which you fight for things, in whatever way that manifests for you, you will be best served if this week you lead from a place of love and not from a place of brute force. Like continually trying to make something happen or make someone do something, or this very like forceful masculine energy it has its place and it has its benefits. However, for you right now in the situations that you are in, it is likely that that level of brute force determination I don't think that's going to be the best bet for you right now. Especially knowing that if you continue on with that laser type vision and you are so stuck in that way that if anything goes awry, you will just freak the fuck out because you've been so completely honed in on this one linear path. And ultimately, if that were to happen and you were to, for lack of a better word, lose your shit over something that is trivial or not really worth expending all of your energy on, then it's probably a byproduct of some inner work that you might actually need to do, especially in the way of trusting yourself. Like if you genuinely trust in your own abilities as a person, if you genuinely trust in your own path, what you're bringing forward, the reactions of other people, the actions of other people, and what happens around you, yes, you are allowed to feel things from that. You are allowed to have a response to that. But if you allow that response to completely take hold of you and to completely control everything about the way that you're showing up, I don't think that at that point you're showing up with a high sense of integrity. There is a lot of value in being able to be calm and flexible in the midst of a storm. And right now that is something that's going to be very important for you, especially if you have people that are relying on you. It could be a family, it could be kids, could be a team, clients, whatever it is, there's definitely an element to this card of needing to show up for yourself and for the world around you in a way that is calm and centered. So all of the energy that you may get from your emotions, especially if you have really passionate emotions or things like anger, learning how to have a sense of, again, fierce serenity and to be bold and to be honest and to be grounded, but also to be peaceful in that process. That, my dear Pisces, is your primary encouragement for this upcoming week. Anything that you feel a need to fight for or to fight against, make sure you're doing it from a place of love and doing so in a very grounded and centered way, at least to the best of your ability. So my dear Pisces, step into your power, allow yourself to be calm in the midst of the storm, and understand that those passionate emotions are going to fuel you and fuel the proper decision for you, so long as you're able to keep yourself in check and lead from a place of love. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope that this was helpful. If you haven't already, please make sure that you tap the subscribe button as well as the notification bell. I post a free reading every single week, so there is a plethora of guidance for you to pull from. And of course, if there's any way that I can be of support to you in your journey in the meantime, please feel free to reach out. I work as a personal coach predominantly for people who are trying to establish better life balance, especially when it comes to work-life balance. And if you or someone you know is in a high leadership role with a lot of responsibilities, maybe an executive role, and you want to make sure that you're maintaining a good life balance so that you can show up well for your family, your team, and yourself, please feel free to shoot me a message for support. Sending you guys so much love. Thank you again for tuning in, and I will see you guys next week. Cheers.